Previously on Balls.
Eric Clapton, I shot the sheriff. Grant?
Hello, Manny, how are you?
All right, and you?
Yeah, not too bad.
It's the radio whore.
Media sluts, radio.
Yeah, there you are.
That's me.
Hey, had some big names in the studio yesterday, I see, eh?
Well, not big in stature, but big in name. Yeah, I like that. Those guys are going to be, I reckon, they're the future of Sydney Province rugby. And I have to get a look in at the next level. That, obviously not now, but down the line, very exciting players, I reckon.
Are you Brachy and who was the other one?
Brachy and Nick Groom,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go from Duvenach, yeah.
I see you rating him, Tank, on the blog.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, look, he's a good player. I mean, look, Duvenach has had his detractors, and I haven't actually been one of them. But when Nick came on Saturday, and he hooked up with those lighties that are seem keen to express themselves a bit. Look, I mean, there's no doubting that it was an unbelievable performance, and they need to do it a few more times. But Grimmy and Brachy were definitely part of that process, and they're very exciting young players.
Do you talk to players from other provinces on your show as well?
Never ever. It's a Western Province show.
Oh, sorry, just turn Billy on. Yeah, sorry, Billy.
No, I'm saying he only talks to players that went to UCT, I think.
Yeah, that as well.
But doesn't your stream go beyond Cape Town or what?
Yeah, it does. Look, I'm joking. My sphere of influence doesn't go much past UCT. I'm working on that, Dan.
I don't know. You did pretty well to make it onto Gareth's show yesterday.
Were you on Gareth's show yesterday?
Yeah, you were chatting to old Sias.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm everywhere you are, Lanning. I'm watching you.
Yeah.
I see that. Listen, CS was first to sign up on Sportsnap, Darren. Where are you, my friend?
Yeah, we're getting there. Don't worry.
You're lagging.
Everything at Balls is a long process. As soon as we get our first listener, then we're in. Then all that other stuff comes afterwards. Oh, look, there's our Luke Baker. Welcome to the show. Just send us a tweet. Thanks a lot, Luke. Nice to have you on board. Right. Now then, blogs. Listen, let me just tell you what's happening from next week. Then you guys tell me whether, and Bounce is just going to have to go with this. Because of all the debate and the gnashing and grinding of teeth every week, especially on a Thursday, from around about sort of 10:13 in the morning when the tweets start, between you and Bounce in particular, we thought, here's the idea. So everyone puts forward a topic, people still vote. So the two losing topics get 5 minutes each for them to put forward their theories, and then the others get a minute each to respond, but there will be a buzzer, so you got to get your response in for a minute, and then the winner gets the 15 minutes to do their full thing, and then the others get a chance to respond afterwards. Huh?
Yeah, cool.
Sounds good.
All right. So no one gets ignored.
As long as Kopinski doesn't talk about BMW.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a no Gary Player law for a second. I was excited.
Yeah, no, because Ben's original idea was to talk about what he had written about during the week, and I was just getting nervous. I don't know much about cars. So.
Yeah. No, but I see. Ben's got a sponsored car now, eh? He's at the big time. BMW gave him a car.
Why?
That's a rival, eh?
That's a rival for you.
For
You
sure.
know
They gave him a car.
Yeah, but I know why. He's using Irene Nell. He's probably like Irene Nell'd them, and now they've given him a car. So unfair.
I don't know.
Anyway, where's he now?
He's at the soup kitchen.
Okay.
Blogs not
Sam, I
doing
didn't
so
know he'd
well.
hit on bad times. He gets a sponsored car, but he has to go to a soup kitchen.
Yeah.
I think it's otherwise called the Western Province Rugby Supporters Club. Eh?
All right, so how's it, Marky? It's Far Side UK. It's just been out at the Paralympics. Thought I'd seen it all. Then I saw a blind triple jump. You will see some interesting stuff there. As I say, I was watching some really, but it's great. It's I wouldn't say great entertainment, but it's just like inspirational stuff. Watching some of that Paralympic stuff. What are we talking about today? So now no one has revealed their topics. There was no voting. So we're just going to rip each other's topics apart, apparently. Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, I think we're just going to throw in either what we've written about or what we want to throw around the table today.
All right, so what is burning you mostly, Tank? Let's start with you.
I don't know about burning, but there were two interesting things that came up in my space this week. One was the Currie Cup team numbers were released by Replicom, who are a sports marketing company in South Africa, and it was quite interesting. The numbers are up 31% on last year's numbers, so 212 is up 31% on 211, which is exactly the same amount as the total audience has grown. So SuperSport have grown their audience by 31%, and the Curry Cup numbers have grown by 31%. So,
Are you allowed to reveal this information?
I'm told that it's freely available to anyone, even SuperSport themselves.
Just checking. All right. So what? So I mean, there it is. So what they're saying? More people are watching. Clearly, you can see it because less people are going to the grounds.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you dig a little deeper, though, they looked at the demographics, and it's still the old pale male that is watching rugby on TV. So it's the Afrikaans-speaking white male over the age of 35. And so I dug a little bit deeper, and I looked into some research that had come up this week and about the multiple screen and how people are consuming rugby. And it looks like the ages of, the lighties, sort of, well, so-called lighties, the 15 to 25, and even the 35 to 25 to 34, are engaging sport on a multiple screen. So while you might watch a game on TV, but you'll have your iPad or your phone in your hand, and like I've done rugby broadcast with you guys, and all of us have sat there with our phone or our iPad in our laps,
or something else in your hand.
Yeah, cold beer, Billy. Nothing else.
Only when the Curry Cup ad comes on.
So the thought process is that perhaps the new audience, the new rugby audience, is perhaps not going to come from a traditional TV audience, but perhaps from multi-screen audience. And so the likes of SuperSport and perhaps Sorry themselves, SABC, ETV, that's the kind of process they should be following in terms of get the content out on multiple screens. But then more importantly, the marketers and the people that count the eyeballs, let's take cognizance of that, and then let's count that as a rugby viewing public. So that for me was quite interesting. I'm a bit of a media geek. Simon likes to call me a media whore, but I'm also a media geek. and I dig the way that consuming sport is going. I mean, I love tweeting while I watch and then going on to the stats and seeing what's going on. So I think that's the way forward. I found that whole bloody thing quite interesting. Silence.
No, I have a question.
Go.
Do you believe those numbers?
Yes, I absolutely do.
Do you want to add Sean Dewberry onto the panel today?
Yeah, I can just clarify it. I mean, there are numbers that come from a set-top box. So they're only DSTV numbers, and they're 100% tracked about what channel you watch.
You're on at any time. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So they're indisputable. What is disputable though is that when say 500 people watch at the keg and whatever in Bryanston, that only counts as one eyeball. And when you have 12 mates around, or 50 mates if you Simon Hill, to a house, that also only counts as one person.
Don't they count it as 4 per household or 4 per decoder on average? Because you must remember, all Lions supporters, they don't have friends, so it's only one.
So they're actually inflated.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. And also, they don't count HD yet. So they're probably undervalued, if anything. But yeah, but it's more about the trends that I find sort of semi-interesting rather than the actual numbers.
Yeah, but you must remember another thing, Tank. There's a difference between passive and active viewing as well.
Yes.
As in, like when you're on a Saturday afternoon, you might be out at the Briar with your mates, and your TV happens to be on the rugby. You might not necessarily be watching it.
Yep.
You're not going to have Hallmark Channel on while you're Brian. That's just gay. So that's the thing is, like, some people are
afternoon Cape Town.
So I mean, obviously there's also active and passive, and it's how many of those viewers are actually actively watching those games. Like, I mean, when I put on the TV to watch a Sharks game, I'll watch it with a specific reason to watch a Sharks game, but then I'll have it on for the rest of the games. I won't sit there glued to the rest of the games all the way through. I mean, for me, watching the Cheetahs against the Lions isn't something I sit all 80 minutes and watch it with passion.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I remember the one time I left my TV on and they showed Formula One. So I mean, they probably counted me as watching
statistics.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, Steph.
Anything to add, Sean?
Well, I mean, there's lots of questions when you throw on lots of numbers and stats, and I mean, I love to throw out stats in my writing and etc. Research, and I get a lot of flack for them. But Tank, if you're thinking of the bracket between 25 to 34, I mean, surely that would be a market that's more willing to go out to the game, as opposed to 35 and older that would stay at home. So your thought of the TV and the pub being counted as one eyeball, that's probably where a higher percentage of the younger demographic is.
Yeah, completely. 100% that, and at a mate's house, and perhaps even at a folks' house, because they can't afford the $600 a month DSTV subscription. So yeah, 100%. That is without doubt, where there could be a reason for the TV numbers not being so big. But the research that came out on the multiple screen that Google had done was interesting. That it's true your TV is your primary screen that you use, but all the other three are just growing: PC, tablet, and smartphone, as percentages of time spent watching screens. Obviously, this in the States, and so it's a little bit ahead of the curve. But going forward, you think about those lighties or the younger generation. They're going to be the early adopters in South Africa, and they're going to be more inclined to follow that trend. So I think that it's fair to say that those guys might be adopting this kind of consummation of rugby already.
There's a question. Why do we still have to pay TV licenses if you can watch the stuff on various different media and like iPads and phones and stuff now? Why do you still have to pay a TV license fee?
Well, you only have to pay if you've got a TV, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, I don't have any, but I'm just saying if I did have...
Let's keep the voice down on the topic. I don't want the guy knocking on my door again.
I don't have any either.
Get a Rottweiler or speak Uzbekistani. Yeah, I don't understand. Why do I still have to pay TV license?
I suppose streaming is taking off. I mean, for the first time this year, I've watched
a Pumas game,
a full game streaming, just because the internet speed I've got now, you can actually watch the game rather than it breaking up the whole time.
You know what I find amazing about that comment is that even though he's in studio with us, it still sounds like Billy's on Skype.
No, but your Skype connection is amazing.
It's incredible.
You still get that click every now and again.
I'm the only person in Ireland that's got actual ADSL, so keeps the line open.
All right, are we done on this topic? Anything else to add?
I just want to add that I felt quite honoured. I see that Bounce and myself and Gareth Rosley were mentioned below Tank's column. Along with Tank, and taking some flack from the trolls. So I certainly think I've arrived. Once the News 24 trolls get hold of you, you can start walking around with your shoulders back.
All right, Sean, what is on your mind? What is your topic that you wanted to discuss today?
Well, the topic I had originally in my head was with the cricket series that went on. Well, that's currently going on now that the one-day series is over in England. Now we're going on to the T20 series. It's just I've heard all talk, as we all have, about the battle for the rankings and the battle for number one, and so it says number one, and its changes per match,
and the fluid system,
and the fluid system of it, which no one understands, as we try to grow a cricket audience. And I'm going, can't we just ditch these rankings, period, and just look at World Cups? It was much funner anyway when we would debate by ourselves who the best team was. Why have these rankings that we don't understand? And I'm not. And just on that level, how much relevance do we do it? Why don't we just look at World Cups, which I know is a sensitive topic in this country, but why not?
This is.
Well, you just answered the question there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Test cricket, it's great to have the rankings because there is no World Cup or World Championship yet. So and there's a mace now for the number one side, so you can understand that having a number one ranking in Test cricket is cool.
But without a World Cup, then the rankings can come more into apparent.
If they had a World Cup in Test cricket, though, then the rankings would be kind of neither here nor there.
Yes, and then you get your mace, and we all get our TV shot of everyone getting presented the mace, and the confetti going in the sky, and the champagne flowing where Ashie Mamla ducks out the way, all that stuff. But I'm saying, what actual meaning do we really have for it as a viewer? Like in this series of going back and forth. I mean, by the end of the time, we were going, I'm actually sick of hearing about being number one.
I agree with you. If the ranking system is as it is, if it's changing after every game, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
If it's constantly changing.
Yeah, I think they should. Like if you look at some of the, there are about 5 or 10 different schoolboy rugby ranking systems in the country. It depends which website you go to. But if you look at that, they kind of come out every 2 weeks or every month. And I think if they did something where that came out more like a log, so it comes out sort of at the end, at month end. Because the ridiculous situation we've just had, where you see all the sponsors making these ads with number one in all 3 formats. 3 days later it's all changed.
Yeah.
And the ads go in the bin. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Tank. It's cricket, by the
way. Luckily someone included a little bit of rugby there. Look, how else do you decide the seedings for the World Cups?
I don't think they even use the rankings for the seedings themselves.
No, they just throw the 8 teams that can play the game at a high level, and then they put the other teams in afterwards.
And let's face it, you could probably get those 8 teams together, draw lots, put them in order. It would make A, as much sense. B, we would believe those would be the systems anyway.
Yeah, and look, the other thing is that the Rugby World Cup is drawn 2 years before, so the rankings are totally shot 2 years later, but I mean, that's a totally different subject. But think about the fun of that, okay? You're never going to win the World Cup, probably not going to, not for a while, going to compete at a World Cup. So, I mean, it's quite cool for them to know that they're 80th in the world, instead of 77th.
Yeah.
I don't know, perhaps it then takes on a different dimension, and the rankings are quite important. Rugby cricket, we dominate on a world stage, and therefore, and obviously because in cricket we haven't won a bloody World Cup for so long that
Ever.
Did we win one, Tank?
Yeah, just remember those words, eh? Nas Botha, remember, never say never. Never win the World Cup. You never know, we might have a 2007 type rugby run where we suddenly in a World Cup end up squeaking into a corner and run into Fiji and then Tonga and have to play Zimbabwe in the final. No, but yeah. But does anyone really care about the football rankings either? You don't hear people going up in arms because they feel that Spain should be ranked higher than Brazil on any particular month.
Well, I personally fail to take them seriously because I see England seem to be constantly 4th or 3rd, regardless of their results.
Yeah, because they should be lower.
Exactly.
I mean, there was only a little bit of interest tweaked when someone said that after Australia lost their ODI against Pakistan, they went down to number 10 in the ODI rankings. Is that true?
I don't know. I think it was dependent on the Manchester United result earlier as well. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, rankings are, I mean, when I know when Johnny comes up with the world, I think we don't even do them anymore.
No.
Obviously, we're talking about South Africa getting to number 1 because it means that we just irritate the Poms more if we take another number 1 ranking because they're talking about it so much. But and being number 1 in all 3, there's maybe something in that. But other than that,
what about the player rankings? I mean, that you go look at the rankings, and if you believe them, I'm not sure what it is today. But Shakib Al Hussain is a better all-rounder than Jacques Kallis. I mean,
and he overtook him as well. Remember, Kallis overtook him, and Jacques Kallis went down in the Test series for Shakib to overtake him again.
Yeah, no,
bizarre.
It's just crazy.
Bizarre.
and Glenn McGrath still ranked 12.
Remember, Brett Schultz was like ranked in the top 10, and he had retired like 5 years
before. It was like Glenn McGrath still in the top 12, I think, at the moment. Yeah, and everyone's got a different system. I mean, even in tennis rankings. And it's also kind of bizarre because you have an unbelievable year where you wipe the field with everybody. You've got to have the same year again to maintain your position.
Yeah,
you know, so that's also kind of swayed. And golf rankings are probably about the most accurate, but they're slightly delayed because, like Tiger Woods, he was hit over the head with a baseball bat by his wife, and was still number 1 2 years after he never picked up a club.
Yeah, but that's because he was so far ahead.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Ridiculous.
But you can 2 years later, or even a year later, you still can't say he's number 1 in the world when he hasn't even played.
Well, doesn't it work something like your results from 2 years count, and then so sometimes you'll go down in the rankings, and you might have done okay at the present time, but your result from 2 years ago falls away, where you won a major or something. So suddenly you lose those points.
Yeah, it's this moving window that keeps rolling along.
So that's where you get these strange scenarios happening.
Yeah, well, that's rankings. Anything more to add?
Can I?
Yeah, Simon?
Not about the rankings, but it has to do with cricket, and I'll just chip in for Bounce here because he's not here today. But something that he mentioned on his blog this week was what to do about limited overs cricket, and he's basically saying that the 50-over format is a damp squid of the cricketing world.
Damn right.
Squid.
It is.
Dreadful. It should be abolished.
He's saying that besides that 4-3-8 game that we had,
Which was a fix.
yeah, shut up, Darren. No, I mean, he's saying that the format needs to be relooked.
Yeah,
it's too slow now.
The middle overs are just like chip a run and just try and sort of stay with the run. You get yourself to the run rate, chip out the middle overs. The power plays have certainly added a little bit more to it, but they need to either add more of those. There should be like an umpire's power play, and then there should be a lucky spectator draw power play.
Where they come on and play for you.
No, well, even there. That's even better.
No, some random oak in the crowd chooses when the power play
happens. So you get to the ground, it attracts people to the ground, and you can draw somebody out and say, okay, Sean, you are going to be deciding when South Africa have to do their batting power play.
It'd also take away the fixing side, you know.
Yeah, spot fix that.
Although you know who's got the draw when you suddenly see a whole lot of Indian bookmakers gathered around one part of the stand.
Everyone buying in Boerewors rolls on the grass bank.
And
The
leather
opposing
jackets.
captains get to choose the other team's batting lineups. I don't know. It's just honestly, we've tinkered with this format so much
But
in
where-
times gone by.
and he
Where were the
mentioned-
England and South African teams, eh? Because they all know each other.
And he mentions it in his article, but I think it's very pertinent. It's where the format is tired when you get to something like a World Cup, where you see how long it takes to complete the tournament and how many predictable, well, I mean, bookies aside, but how many predictable matches there are and how long it takes to get a result that we think, or many people believe, is just a formality.
One thing, that last 50 over World Cup was a horrid format as well. To have like I think there were 12 teams, to have 2 groups of 6, where there's only 8 guys really playing it properly, and four go through in each group to make a quarter final.
Yeah.
Basically, we had a month to find out
Yeah.
if Bangladesh could cause an upset. that was a long time to find that out, and no other result mattered.
Well, you
because
know
if you
what-
made the quarter final, you were through. It was the same as finishing top of your group.
But you know what caused all the trouble? And once again, you wonder if match fixing had anything to do with it. It was when Kenya suddenly made a semi-final that won World Cup, and I think Ireland also made their way through.
Yeah.
That screwed everyone because now the organisers are going, see, told you so.
See, Darren, the major problem was in the 2007 World Cup when
Yeah.
Pakistan and India didn't make it, but they've already organised the fixtures so that they did.
Yeah.
And the teams that made it instead of Pakistan and India were Ireland and Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So we had a crowd that was sold out for months and months and months. Rabid to check this fixture, and they got to see Bangladesh lose to Ireland.
That would teach you.
Yeah, that was still a shock. I mean, who would have guessed, other than India and Pakistan themselves, that those two would get knocked out early in that competition?
But what about the
It's
format?
amazing that they'd scheduled a game during the semi-final week of that World Cup as well. Yes, sorry?
But the question is, what about the format? Does it go?
Yeah, I mean, I think Barnes makes a good point there. I mean, like he says, it's been raised before, but the option of having like a break in the innings, so you actually have 2 innings, so that if you have a shocker, you know, you've always got a second kind of 20 overs to get back in the game. So both teams bat, and they have, I think this is what he says there, and like I say, it's been said before, but I think it's quite a good idea. So you both have 20 overs, and then you go in a game. You know, the other team goes in and then it's basically like a mini test match. And I think there's some merit in that, because you won't have that lull, and there literally is, you know, that 20 overs every 50 over game where, you know, you can happily go and bath the kids or go and put the Weber on, you know, like, and not worry about what's going to happen, because it's just knocking it around.
But double up on 2 T20 games. But I mean, that's basically what T20 cricket was about. It was
was
taking out the middle overs of a 50-over
Yeah,
game
exactly.
because they're
Yeah.
boring, and make it something that they hope the Americans will be able to buy into, which they haven't.
That's the thing.
So
where
scrap them all.
I think that format would be interesting, and that was the original idea for T20 cricket, was to have it as as a 4 innings tournament, like a mini test match.
Yeah.
But to be honest, what does that really bring to cricket that a T20 doesn't, in terms of what the crowd are looking for? Overall, I say not much.
I think
You
it's-
missed out on, yeah.
It like takes away you know, in T20, like if you have a shocker, you're done. Like, whereas in that format, you at least have another chance to get back in the
So
game.
it's,
you know?
it's like a cricketing form of baseball. You've got different innings.
You
Different
kind of
innings,
got your
yeah.
2 innings. So, I mean, if you get off to a really bad start in a T20, you basically poked. You know what I mean? You're not going to get a 200 or 180. You're probably going to come out with 130, which might not win you the game, but it might keep you in the game if you make a 180 next time. You know what I mean? So I think that's where, you know, the big thing with T20 is the best team often doesn't win because of, you know, you lose 1 or 2 wickets and that's you
But
done.
it's hit and giggle. So do you
Yeah,
really can you
that's
really
all.
ascertain who the
Yeah.
best team is anyway? You know, it's one who comes off can make basically decide the game.
But here's an
Yeah.
idea, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack here, but I think we should take a leaf out of, if we get rid of one-day games, the 50-over stuff, and then the schedule gets a bit way more open, so we have more to play with T20. I think we should take a leaf out of the World Series book and have it as like a best-of-5 series or a best-of-3 series. I'd treat one T20 match as like a set in a tennis match. You know, like occasionally you'd get a set off Federer,
Yeah.
but
you
you're
won't
not-
win the match.
But you're not winning the match.
Yeah.
You know, although that's a horrible example because my man lost.
I get the
But
analogy.
but you see the analogy there. That way you avoid those kind of games where, you know, Chris Gale has a big 20 minutes for a worse team, but that's it. That's enough for the game to be over, you know. But try ask him to do that over a best of 7 or a best of 5, and I think we'll have a way more
I don't even think that.
Much integrity in the winners.
I just think it doesn't. From my own personal point of view, neither of them interest me. I do not go out of my way to make sure I don't miss a T20 game or an ODI. I can't remember when what the result of the last series we had against Sri Lanka was in the one-day internationals. I don't even remember the score in the series where the 438 game happened. I know we won it, but I'm not sure if it was 3-1 or 3-2 or what it was. And that's the whole thing. No one remembers any of these. They become just characterless. Hey, Tank? I mean, there's just no...
Yeah.
You know, you don't go back in history and go, oh, yeah, but in the 2003... I mean, no, we don't even know who we played ODI series against in 2003, other than the World Cup.
As you say, I mean, it all becomes a blur. And for me, I mean, who the hell is cricket to have three versions of one sport?
Yeah, exactly. Play tests and do it that way. Have a World Cup of Test
Rugby
cricket.
has it too.
Have tours. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
World Cup
so
Test cricket.
if two is acceptable, ditch the 50, and let's have the T20s for a giggle, and for the under 13 people in this on this earth, and let's have Test cricket for those that understand sport. And they don't understand the 50 over stuff. I mean, as everyone agrees, I mean, it's just hopeless, man. It's got to go.
What? Sorry.
Go.
No, what are we going to do with people's retirements if we can T20s? Like, because it's the Mackay and Tini benefit, and then it's the Jacques Callis benefit. And then
Well, then have them just as festival games.
There's going to be 80 former cricketers in the Supersport studio looking for work.
All right, we'll get to Billy's topic in just a moment. First of all, let's have a look at your sports headlines. We'll take a tune from Simple Minds as well. It's Balls Visual Radio and 91.3 Alternative FM. All right, so before we wrap up blogs today, final topic. In studio with us today is Sport Billy Says.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got quite a short one, but I think maybe we move on
And
to
your topic? Sorry,
Very good
that's
song,
the kind
very
of
good.
humour that we promote here on the station.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Cheers, Raymond.
Easy on me,
Hi, Raymond.
Yes.
But so what I was thinking we kick off with is you guys have obviously heard about Andrew Flintoff.
Yes, wanting to box.
Yeah, it was on News 24, so I presume John's read it
No.
out.
Yes. I got it.
Main story.
Yeah, my main story. Yeah.
But like, I'm thinking, like, let's throw around a few guys that we would put him up against. And my particular favourite would be Harbhajan, I'll Make Your Ear Sing. I mean, we all know what old Budgie is capable of with a flat hand. Do you guys remember that? When
Who was it? Malinga.
No, he
Srinath.
disciplines. I mean, we all wanted to discipline Srinath,
Oh,
and old Budgie did it for
Srisanth.
us. Srisanth,
Yeah.
sorry, not Srinath. Srinath was the guy with the fantastic blow-dried hair.
Yes.
But yeah, old Srinath. I'm sorry, Srisanth. So yeah, I mean, what is it with these guys? I mean, we've got obviously old Sonny Bill's not too shabby in the boxing ring, but I mean, that had to be the letdown of the day. I mean, Andrew Flintoff, let's remember him gracefully, you know what I mean? But getting in a heavyweight ring, I mean, come on. And so that's what I kind of want to talk about.
Do we remember Andrew Flintoff gracefully?
No, I remember him lumbering in.
Yeah,
He was always
he was a lumberer.
he was like the cricket version of Darren Clark.
Was his nickname Freddie?
I thought you were going to say Darren Scott.
Really,
No, Darren Scott looks like Darren Clark though. That was meant as a
You know that I
compliment.
stopped myself very quickly.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
But I mean, Sonny Bill gets into the ring.
Moneyball.
Apparently, yeah.
Not that I'm challenging Sonny Bill to a boxing match or anything,
But
but
they're all
how many,
palookas.
Sonny
how
Bill
many
and
heavyweight New Zealand boxers are there of any
Sonny
standard?
Ball.
Yeah, Sonny Bill, and there was that guy David Tour, but
Yeah.
they've never had a rumble. I'm
No,
sure.
but
Well,
he got Blixen though.
There are
He
plenty
wasn't
for you in the caravan park on the weekend.
No, but Sonny Bill, it's like who was it? Francois Botha, I think, who ran his record up by taking on like 10 guys in one night in a small little bar environment, and then putting that on his professional record.
Yeah, and he delved into wrestling and the whole works. So.
Yeah, he went up to Japan, did that
Yeah.
K1 fighting and all that. But his professional record was built up. Listen, I wasn't there. I didn't see the fights. From what I did get some of this information from Corey Sanders, so there might be a vested interest there. But yeah, I mean, there are some of these heavyweights build up their record very quickly, so they can move up in the rankings quicker by taking on 10 guys in one night. And it's like all comers. So
What are you
know,
saying? Buddha got his career on track by some Friday night brandy
Yeah,
special. And
yeah, that's exactly how it worked. And suddenly there he was. They saw, oh,
back.
geez, he's got a 41-0 record. We better rank him. suddenly he popped up in the ranking. I mean, had you ever heard of Francie Botha before he suddenly was going to be fighting against Mike Tyson, the White Buffalo? No,
He came from nowhere.
exactly.
Okay, so what are you asking? That's what I want to know.
No, what I'm asking is like, isn't it time that sports stars? I think Flintoff's case. I read a comment on one of the websites where someone said, and I think he summed it up pretty well. Is Andrew Flintoff? There was kind of that whole hype around him as being this fantastic cricketer, and I mean he was good, he was decent, but he never quite was as good as everyone thought he was going to be. Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't another Botham.
Yeah, he was billed as the next Botham, but he never was. And you know, I mean, sure, his career was hampered by injury and all that, but you know, to go and try his hand at this, I think personally, I just think it's embarrassing. Like I would love I'd love someone else to give it a shot and get in the ring with him, and someone like Sonny Bill, because I think Sonny Bill, you know, he can probably swing a punch or two.
Yeah.
I think something will flatten him, but I must say, Clemson van der Berg also, you know, he's a boxing expert, if there is one in South Africa, and he the Sonny Bill will just get taken out by anyone with any sort of remote standing in the boxing fraternity. You know, he's got years by fighting bums, as they call them in the boxing space, or as Clinton calls them. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they can be taken too seriously. But to your point, Billy, I mean, I think you're right. I mean,
Are you allowed to quote Clinton van der Berg, by the way?
You are when you're sucking up, you're trying to get back in there.
Are you looking for another media outlet, are you?
My friend, anything, all comers.
Don't spread yourself too thin,
You
Tank.
are a media hall.
There's not a bit to go around, don't worry.
Yeah, Bock and Roll says SBW will never be New Zealand champion until he fights David Tua. Is David Tua still fighting?
I
Is he?
think so. Yeah.
You got to be kidding. Didn't Tyson end his career like ages ago or somebody? Wow.
Yeah, I think I saw originally he was ranked #1 in New Zealand about a year or 18 months ago, and then Sonny Bill with his latest couple of homeless guys he fought.
He retired in
overtook him.
March.
March.
This
Okay,
year.
well, there we go.
Okay.
Cheers. But Tank, am I right? Sonny Bill also, same type of thing. That's why I brought up the Francie Botha thing. He's also built up his heavyweight record based on the same kind of thing, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. Well, one hand tied behind their back, and he also got his rankings right up there. But also more to the point that Billy was making, he's actually make comebacks. You know, it really worries me. Even Armstrong, even Schumacher. I know Schumacher's doing okay these days, but I think they kind of they drop out of time right and they miss that. You know, and they think of these strange ways to get back into it. And I agree with Billy. I mean, I think it's rather sad. The simplest thing is right up there with sadness personified, you know.
But what do they? The question is, what do they do outside of sport? Because that's all they know.
It's such a valid point, and you know, come back to speaking to Groomy and Marcel Bachy last night. You know, these guys are both studying, and they're trying to. It's going to sound cliche, but better themselves as people rather than just as rugby players, and that's not always the case. You know, these days, like a Pollard gets spotted at under 13 level, he's playing Bulls rugby the first year out of school, never studies. He does his million at age 24 or age 26. What the hell does he do? He hasn't got enough money to live his whole life on, and he's done nothing other than rugby. I'm not putting all these guys in the same boat, but yeah, perhaps, you know, sportsmen need to look at things outside of just sport while they're in it. But I think it's easier said than done, though.
Are you trying to convince us that province players are people too?
And they have feelings.
Two things just quickly that have popped up here. First of all, we thought we'd lost Raymond Swinton. Well, good news is Ian Robert Swinton has joined us as well.
Cool.
We have two Swintons now. Doubled our audience. The other one, I've just checked Sonny Bill's record here, and I see the one time he slapped Jean de Villiers, he's put that down as a TKO on his record. So there we go.
But I mean, anyone that knows anything about New Zealand knows that real fighters don't get in the ring. They are in the back streets of Otahu in Auckland, and that's where the big stuff happens.
Apparently, New Zealand's got the biggest gangs in the world.
Sure.
So,
Who's the poor guy measuring this?
I think you misread that as bangs.
Maybe that as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to mess with a couple of those Samoan fellows, you know,
No.
tattoos all over their body.
I wouldn't mess with their girlfriends either. I saw some of them bouncing at clubs in Christchurch too. Yo, yay.
I swear, I played a bit of club rugby, just amateur stuff in Brisbane, and there was a bar there that was frequented by sort of Islanders and New Zealanders. And I went there. One of the guys I played with was a Maori, and he took me there, and I was literally the only sort of pale male there. And next thing, this fight broke out, and my Maori mate grabbed me and he put me in the corner of the room, and he said, "Don't you move, mate." And I mean, it was amazing.
Because you were going to.
No, I wasn't going anywhere. I was quietly sipping my beer, looking inconspicuous. But I mean, the girls were in the front line, and there's some big girls, and I mean, it was amazing. The bouncers came running down the stairs and proceeded to turn around and run back up the stairs.
You guys sort that out.
Yeah, and it was like literally like 15 minutes free for all. And then everyone, goes and grabs a beer.
Buy you a beer.
Yeah, the girls buy the boys a beer if they've beaten them up, and you get on with it.
Lekker.
It was beautiful.
It's like being in the Truman Show, being around some of those clubs. Tambur says, put Big Mac in the ring with Flintoff. Is that Brian McMillan?
There we go.
Yeah.
How he'd handle himself. I suppose from a South African point of view, cricket-wise, Big Mac would probably be the oak. Is there anybody else that
I
that
think
you'd throw in there?
I've seen a shot of Brett Schultz every now and then.
Yeah,
I think he might be able to swing a couple of southpaws as well.
Yeah.
What's happened to Jimmy Abbott?
Now,
Jimmy Abbott's living in Port Elizabeth. He drives a Range Rover, and it actually slants to the one side when you can actually see it coming a mile of it. Literally sits right on the one side like that. It's on the half.
Thanks for that,
So I wouldn't
Johnny.
mind putting Jimmy Abbott in the ring with him,
With who?
with Flintoff. I know Jimmy Abbott's a wrestler.
No, well, he's a former boxer.
Doppies
Didn't he do
Lakanji
a-
was a wrestler. Huh?
He did a bit of wrestling though, didn't he?
Yes, no, yes.
But he was a boxer,
Who
pro
was that
boxer.
other Stoyer, that hooker? What was his name? That other Stoyer who used to play Van Biljon.
Van
Lucas.
Biljon,
Wasn't he a wrestler?
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
the hell
I think
happened
it
to
would have
Lucas
been
van Biljon, by the way?
Point.
Where's he gone?
Yeah. Where's he gone?
He came and went quite quickly.
Did
Johnny?
he get banned for juice?
No, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
there
know.
was a story.
I think you're onto something there, Tank.
There was something like that. But I mean, he was pushing John Smith early on in Smitty's career hard.
Yeah.
2001, 2002.
I'm not
that
talking
time.
about in the showers either.
And just on the subject of that, I was having this conversation with someone else. Who was that? And Tank, you'd know this. Who was that Lions or Transvaal hooker? Round about the same kind of time, he had a couple of appearances for the Springboks. Tall guy. Actually quite tall for a hooker.
Sure, but was he playing behind Dalton or?
No. This is also in about Lucas van Biljon era.
Wasn't John Mitchell deep?
No, Johnny. He was.
Okay.
Please, he benched for Transvaal for 38 years after Gerald Fenton.
Okay.
Tall hooker for Transvaal.
He played for the Springboks as well, and I cannot for the life of me think of
Not
who
Ian
this guy
Hutting.
was. No.
No. He played.
No, he was a
flank.
I think it
hooker.
was a Lucas prop.
He was a hooker.
Yeah, Hutting was a prop. Yeah.
He was a tall, thin. Of course, had an Afrikaans name, and I think he played a couple of games for the Springboks around about that time. Jacques
Yeah.
didn't give me the name, but here's a guy that should definitely get in the ring with anybody and get blixemed. Andrew Simons.
Yeah.
I think half the South African cricket team would have wanted to do that as well, because geez, he's got a mouth on him, that oak.
I think we should have Andrew Simons and Zane Kirshner for the big knickknacks title award.
No ways. Kirshner takes it.
You just got to make sure there's no good fishing on at the same time, else Simons won't pitch.
All right, we're gonna,
Flintoff might fall off the pedalo as well.
we've got to wrap it there. Now it's going to bother me the whole night who that rugby. Tank, please find out for me and
I'm
tweet me.
going to Google it right now. And
Go through that era and find out, guys. He did definitely one or two games. I think he might have played one, and then they decided big mistake. So that's blogs for today.
I agree with you, Billy. These guys that make comebacks, it's usually a massive, massive disappointment, not only for them but for the fans.
Yeah, they tarnish the dream.
Tarnish an
yeah.
image. Schumacher.
Yeah.
Schumacher, I mean, you can list them. Schumacher,
Yeah.
Armstrong, Flintoff about to be.
George Foreman.
Yeah, well, but he at least made a fat-free cooker. Like,
but you reckon Schumacher's back for the love of it or for the money? Because he surely
Can't be for the money. I don't think it's for the money. I think it's because you're bored. I just think because they don't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
I know he was a consultant, and then I think after a while that gets boring because you spend your whole life driving at 350 k's an hour. I mean, imagine how boring it is. Put me
Dude,
back
if I had
behind the
that
wheel.
money, I would not be bored.
Well, listen, two completely different comebacks that are like opposite ends of the spectrum. One is Alex Zanardi. How was him yesterday, winning a
Sure.
Paralympic
That's a
gold?
wonderful story,
That's an
yeah.
awesome comeback, that. And the other one, which is the biggest flop comeback ever, was Nigel Mansell. When he tried to
yeah.
come back,
yeah.
they couldn't fit him in the cockpit. He was so fat.
Yeah. Yes.
That was brilliant. All right, that's it for blogs. Time is marching on. I got to wrap it up here. Thanks a lot, guys. Nice to see you in
Yes,
studio,
good,
Billy. Grant, thanks very much, boss. We'll chat to you next week. And remember, voting on topics gets in, but everyone's topic will be dealt with. It's just that there will be time allocated for the lesser topics, and the winning topic will get more time. But everyone
Yeah.
will have a window to comment and tear apart the other person's topic.
Cool,
shot, man.
sounds good. Huh?
All right,
Good
so
evening,
we look
guys.
forward to chatting to you next week. Cheers, bud.
Just thank you on
All right,
5.
cheers, man.
Yeah, 5 FM. Are you on Highveld tomorrow
Yeah, where
morning?
are
Are
you
you?
tomorrow? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll probably be on Cape Talk. Let's just keep it tidy.
How many cell phones do you have, Tank?
And our friends at Alternative FM 91.3 say thanks for mentioning Cape Talk on their radio station. Cheers, Tank.
Cheers, guys.
Ciao,
Go
ciao.
on,
Bye,
Bye
mate.
bye.
Cheers.
There we go. That's Front Row Grunt. Go and check out his stuff, his blog, Front Row Grunt. Also, Simply Sean, his blog, Simply Sean.
.co.za.
.coza and sportbillysays.coza.
Yeah, no, it's just sportbilly.coza. Yeah.
Sportbilly.coza on Twitter. It's at sportsbillysays.
2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays to Fridays live on balls.co.za. Balls.co.za.